This is a test. If you guys can hear me, this is a test. See if we are working.
Oh, that looks like a delay thing. That's when I went up to go and get food.
Okay, well, we're gonna go ahead and go. So yeah, we're gonna be coming from Isaiah 65 and 17 and 18. Again, that's Isaiah 65, 17 and 18. It reads, "Look, I am creating new heavens and new earth, and no one will even think about the old ones anymore. Be glad, rejoice forever in my creation. And look, I will create Jerusalem as a place of happiness. Her people will be a source of joy." I'm going to read 17 again because that's what we're going to mostly focus on. "Look, I am creating new heavens and a new earth, and no one will even think about the old ones anymore." And that goes into the topic today, which is no amount of building something good removes something bad. No amount of building something good removes something bad. One more time. No amount of removing something good removes something bad. I'm building something good, remove something bad. Your attitude. Ooh, you got an attitude. Your sister got an attitude, don't she? She got an attitude. Attitude problems. Ooh. What? I'm telling you. Attitudes. Man, how they deal with you all the time? And she over there like, uh-huh. She like, yep, she do. Look at her. She ain't even say it, but her face telling me everything they do. Talk to me. Huh? All right, so again, no amount of doing something good removes something bad. You want to go ahead, what does that initially mean? What do you initially think when you hear that?
It reminds me of like when you have a wound and you don't treat it and you start putting band-aids on top of it and you just keep on putting it on. And every time you take off the band-aid, it looks worse than it was before. Because the underlying issue is there. You need to treat that before you put the band. You can't just slam a band-aid on. That's what comes to my mind.
And that's exactly where we're going. The underlying issue has to be resolved in order for you to build the goodness on top of it, right? If you just start baking a cake and you just say I'm gonna put the powder, I'm gonna put the cake mix in there, and I'm gonna just stir it with some water and throw it in the oven, right? What you doing? You can put it in the oven at the perfect temperature, the perfect time, have it in there for the right amount of time, take it out, let it cool, put the icing on it, all you want to. But that cake is still not going to be good because you didn't do all the processes in front of that to make sure it's going to be right. So the underlying issues we have to resolve first before we can build a new on top of it. And that's initially the part we're trying to get to today. Is we want to fix the underlying issues before we can go to the next point of our lives. And a lot of times with people, we just gloss over those things, right? We have traumatic things happen in our lives that really affect us and impact us, but we just have a thing about us where we just try to continue forward. When we're trying to tell you it's okay to resolve that issue first before you build on top of it, because what's going to happen is you're going to take it to the next relationship, and that one's going to fail because of the trauma you had from the last one. You got to fix the old trauma before you get into the new situation, right? Yeah.
I think it's really important that we realize that when we're hurting or when something has gone wrong, as much as we want a solution to that situation, we need to first of all address what actually went wrong. You need to go back into it. You need to revisit it. It's painful, and in science, in health, they tend to say she needs closure. So closure is not really a band-aid. Closure means that he or she needs to go back, just like what you said. He or she needs to go back and actually relive that whole thing again. And that way you're able to address the issues and then have healing. Healing doesn't happen if you don't have closure. And closure is something that just addresses all those underlying issues. And then you're ready. So you think you're ready to move on. It's like a bad relationship. Okay, you're in a relationship, it went bad. You're in another relationship, it went bad. Before you move on to another relationship, you need to get closure. So that means you need to go back into the history of how you date. What are the things that I did? Okay, when did things start going wrong? Because when you're in that relationship, these are things you don't pay attention to. It's usually when it's gone out of control. That's when you realize that, hey, this is not working for me. So go back into it. It doesn't mean that you're the bad person or this other person. Because what works for you might not work for someone else, and what works for that person might just not work for you. So you need to go back into it and revisit everything and go over, have your do's and don'ts, and then you're ready, you're solid, you're ready to move on.
And that's why we think it's so important, and we wholeheartedly believe that it's important to give your life to Christ, so that way He can help heal those old wounds, right? That's why it's important when you go to when you come to church and say leave everything at the altar, because He's giving you a chance to help close those old wounds for you before you start walking into new doors, right? We believe that God's not going to put us in any situation that's going to set us back for anything in our lives. So if that's the case, then why not trust Him in everything that we do, right? Right? We can't pick and choose when we want to trust God, or pick and choose when we want to believe in Him. Right? We can't believe in God when it's convenient for us. We have to believe in God at all opportunities and all times. Sorry, I threw my thought process. I was trying to ramble while I was thinking about my next point, but a lot of stuff is going on. Sorry, I kind of forgot where I was going. But that's how when we talked about this scripture, it says, no one will even think about the old ones anymore. Right? Once you heal those old wounds, there's still scars to remind us, but you don't think about them anymore. Right? God puts us in a position where He can close those chapters and you can move forward and walk anew. So you can become a new creature in Him, have a new faith in Him, and that's what's most important, right? We have friends that we might be with your homegirl or your homeboy, whatever it is, right? You friends with them, and for whatever reason y'all start beefing, right? Y'all beefing whatever reason, whether she talked about you, she talked to your boyfriend, who knows, whatever the situation was, right? And a lot of times we just leave that situation, and as soon as it goes bad, we jump into another one. Right? And a lot of times we jump into that other situation, our mind is still clouded and jaded. Mm-hmm. And what happens is you come to realize that person, I shouldn't have been that friend, that person's friend either. It's because when you jump into something so quick and you're moving too quickly to go through different things, your mind is still jaded. Your mind is still clouded. That's why when we go through things, we have to ask God to give us the clarity so we can make the right decision. And we're not so impulsive. When you lose a job, the first thing you want to do is go get another job. But understanding that we're rushing and forcing ourselves into the situation that God didn't tell us that's the job for us. So now what do? You go jump into that job, and now you set yourself back 2 years. God said, I had a whole plan for you, but because you didn't listen to me, now you set your own self back. Instead of taking a moment, listen to what God's telling you to do, or just taking a moment to breathe, think about it, let God just decide what He should do for you, and then ultimately react. Right? We try to force these situations based on what we want. We force ourselves to be with this guy because he has the six-pack, he has the abs, he has the money, he has the cars. But guess what? That's not what he's supposed to be. You can't force yourself into a situation, and then when you get in a situation, look at God and be like, well, what? I said, no, I didn't decide that for you, but I'm gonna yet help you get out of it anyway. But you just set yourself back multiple years that I naturally didn't desire for you.
I really like, Keith, I really like the bit where you mentioned about a job. When you don't get a job and you just move on, or you lose a job and you move on to another one. One of the things that I found out is that, and it's the things that we don't like doing. When you lose a job, they always say ask for a careers advisor will tell you ask for feedback. Some people are so upset, which is normal, because sometimes you set your mind, you think the interview went so well, and then you're hearing something else. Always go back and get feedback. That feedback, it will help you. When you get feedback from one person, two people, you start to realize that there's a trend, because they have no personal vested interest in you. So they're not going to say something bad about you because of something. So if you get two different companies telling you the same thing, you'll see a trend. Maybe it's the way you answer certain questions. Maybe it's certain questions that there's a way of how you actually deal with it. Maybe you ask a question that you shouldn't have asked. Maybe it's something about your non-verbal communication. You need to find out what went wrong. So when you go for that next interview, you're prepared. At least you're aware. You make an informed presentation about yourself. Okay, I know I speak too fast. I'm going to speak a bit slower. Okay, I know I didn't ask about how that job came to be. Okay, I'm going to do my research before. Okay, I know I didn't check out. That's one thing. People go for interviews. They don't prep. And that's another thing. You become an excellent prepper when you have closure from something that went wrong before. Because now you're equipped to deal with it. You're not always going to have someone who's going to hold your hand and lead you through every situation that you're in. So like what doesn't kill you makes you stronger is actually so relevant here, because what it is that you now gather the ammunition that you need to move on to live a prosperous life. It might not happen overnight, and they say Rome wasn't built in a day, but you learn by your own mistakes. Some of them big, some of them small, but just use them as a stepping stone. And you mentioned also, Keith, about a relationship that you're looking at this. Everyone has a fantasy in their head, the kind of person they want to be with, the kind of person they want to get married to. Everybody has that fixed in their head from, I don't know, maybe in your early teens or something like that. But then there's reality. So that reality is that things might not always be the way that you thought they're going to be. But the only way you're going to know that is when something goes wrong in the relationship. Because you go into that relationship with that fantasy. And one of the biggest things as a Christian is that, when we're talking about having closure and going back into the past, some of that stuff can be really, really deep. And this is why it's so important to have a relationship with Christ. One of the things we have to learn to do is that it's okay to make mistakes. Learn to forgive yourself. I think a lot of times we find it hard to forgive ourselves. And you keep on saying, if I didn't do that, if I just listened to that, okay, do that once and then move on from there. But because you're going through it, you're not able to just do that physically within your own being. You need something that can really come over you and help you to learn to forgive yourself and also forgive that other person too. You've got to, or else you're still going to have a chip on your shoulder. Okay, you've forgiven yourself, but now you think, all girls are useless, all guys are bad. And that's where you get that kind of chemistry. So that's where you get that negative. So even when you meet the right person, you still got that thing locked in your head from like years ago. Like, nah, I'm not gonna take crap, and you're just really on the defensive. When in this situation, you really don't need to do that. It's because you've just got a band-aid and you moved on. You never really dug deep into your past and sit down and explore what it is that happened, so you can equip yourself for success.
I want everybody to think about this. Think about going to sit down in the chair that only has the legs, the arms, and the back. All it has is legs, arms, and the back. It ain't got no place for you to put your tushy on. No place for that. You just got a chair with just arms, back, and just the part in the legs. That's it. You won't be able to sit down. You won't sit down. You'll look at me like I'm not going to sit in that seat. Why? Because you see that that's how this chair was built incorrectly. You're going to look at it and be like, I have no faith in the chair. But yet, God has told us, showed us on multiple opportunities and times that He's got us and He's going to come through for us. But yet, when we look at Him, we still don't look at Him and say He's going to have us back. We make our own decisions. Right? We sit down in that chair every single time knowing the fact that chair is going to hold my weight. Why don't we give God the same opportunity?
It's true.
Every time you turn your car on, you know that car's going to turn on and move for you. But yet, we don't do the same thing with God. We question Him, but we don't question our car. Who's been more consistent? That car ain't running without gas. But God going to run regardless. So it's time for us to do what? It's time for us to buy in God's stock. God's stock is never depleted. It's never gone down. Right? You look at your 401ks, it fluctuates. You look at your RAs and it fluctuates, and the stock market goes up and it goes down. God's stock is always continuing to rise, but we don't buy into it. I don't understand. It's the most proven, guaranteed stock we have in this world, but yet we do not buy into it.
Oh, that's deep.
You like that one? You like that?
Yeah, I do. I'm savoring it. I like that. That is deep.
You can try too hard.
That is deep. Talking about the stock exchange. Everybody can connect with that. Everyone's looking at investments and stuff like that. Why is it that even though over the history of investing, you can see that people lose money. Some people lose millions. That's not stop people from investing. They sell everything they've got. And I've got a story that goes, I don't know whether it really happened, but someone translated it into a Christian kind of background thing. So what it says that when you're going to, all of us have been on a plane, right? You've been on a plane? Right. When you were going to go on the plane, what are the things that you took with you before you boarded the flight? When you went to the airport, what did you show them? Or you just walked on and you went on the plane? What did you have? Okay. What did you show them?
Have you ever flew before? Okay. Well, you showed them some type.
But what did you have? You have to show them something.
Yeah, you showed them some type of proof.
Or your mom or your dad showed them something.
Yeah.
So like
no,
your
we get
ID.
it. You get it.
We get what you're saying. So when you got on the flight, before you got on the flight, did you ask any information about the pilot? Do you know what country the pilot was from? Do you know what qualifications the pilot has?
Nope.
Do you know that he's got a track record of actually getting people from A to B?
Nope.
But you got on that plane anyway. You put your whole life in that plane. And for families, parents that go with their families, you all just jump on the plane. You don't ask anything. But you are trusting that that pilot is going to take you from A to B in that sky. Why can't you trust God? Why can't you trust God? When you take a bus, do you ask the bus driver for his certification? Do you ask him how many accidents he's been in the last 1 year? Do you ask if he has a criminal record? No, you don't. You just trust that the government's done what they need to do, and he's going to take you from where you are to where you need to be, which is school. Why do we do these things every day, but we cannot just trust God? Have you ever woken up and have you ever lived a day that there's been no daylight? Unless if you've experienced a volcanic eruption and all the stuff. It's actually daylight, but the ash is in the sky. Have you ever seen the moon come up when the sun is supposed to be up? Or you've ever seen the sun when the moon is supposed to come up? He has a track record. He has a track record that stems back way before our ancestors. So why can't you trust him? Why can't you just trust him? That's my question.
I don't know who my ancestors is or where they come from. I don't know nothing about no history. My people, I think they're some slaves, but who knows? I don't know. I'm red, so maybe it wasn't. I don't know. But regardless, I think it's very important, man. It's just for us to understand that before we start building it and start building our new creation and who we are in God, I think it's important to make sure we allow God to help us close those old wounds and those old chapters in our lives. Just so we can start building on a fresh platform. You know, we want to start building our house on a platform that's solid and is firm. We sing the song about firm foundation all the time. I think it's the most important thing to have a firm foundation first before you start building. So for me, I think that's about it that I have for you guys today. Does Tabby have anything to say?
Just one last thing. It just came to my mind when you were saying it's good to have a solid foundation, a clear foundation, and know exactly what it is you want to do. Imagine yourself to be an artist. There is no artist that starts a painting with a canvas that already has stuff on it. It's always a blank canvas. When you deal with what's happened in your past and you make peace with it and you use those experiences as a stepping stone, you're now ready to face life. You've got a clear canvas. If your band-aid is actually taken off, it's actually clear. You don't actually need that band-aid anymore. You have a clear canvas. So just make sure you have a clear canvas and don't have stuff in it.
Yep. All right, so I think that wraps it up. We want to end it with your song again. What's your song? Ay Wawa. Ay Wawa. Ay Wawa.
Hey ya ya, 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 eh.
Ay Wawa. Ay Wawa. Ay Wawa.
Oh my God.
Ay Wawa. I appreciate love. We love
Have a good
y'all.